For more than 2 years, police found nothing. No phone, no body, no answers. Then a YouTuber decided to search the same forest. What happened next changed everything. But before we get to that discovery, we need to go back to where this story began. Because long before the headlines, before the search parties, and before millions of people started following the case, there was just one young woman setting out on what should have been an ordinary hike. Her name was Celine Cremer. She was 31 years old, originally from Belgium. In 2023, she made a decision that many people only dream about. She packed her backpack, left home, and flew to Australia. For Celine, it wasn't just another vacation. She wanted to experience the country on foot, hiking through rainforests, exploring places most tourists never see. Her family described her as independent but careful, and deeply connected to nature. She wasn't someone who took unnecessary risks. She planned her hikes, stayed in contact with her family, and always let people know where she was going. On June 17, 2023, Celine set off alone for a hike. Her destination was Goodnight Scrub National Park, a remote area known for its dense rainforest, steep terrain, and limited phone reception. Before leaving, she told her family where she was going. Nothing about the plans seemed unusual. It was just another hike. But as the day went on, the messages stopped. The calls went unanswered, and Celine never returned. At first, her family hoped she had simply lost signal. After all, large parts of the park have no phone coverage. But as the hours turned into days, hope slowly gave way to fear. Weeks passed, then months, and eventually, an entire year. Despite one of the largest search efforts in the region, investigators were no closer to finding Celine. The case slowly began to fade from the headlines. For many people, it became just another unsolved disappearance. But for Celine's family, the uncertainty never went away. Every day without answers brought new questions. Had she become lost? Had she been injured? Or had something else happened in the forest? And for more than 2 years, no one would find out.
Not knowing, I think, is the worst thing that a family could live.
Then the case caught the attention of someone unexpected. His name was Rob Parsons, a filmmaker and YouTube creator. Like thousands of others, he had followed Celine's disappearance online. But unlike most people, he couldn't stop thinking about one question. If Celine had vanished in that forest, how had such a massive search found absolutely nothing? The more he studied the case, the more he began to believe that something had been missed. So he decided to do something unusual. He went looking for the answers himself. Rob began reviewing maps, GPS data, search reports, and every piece of information he could find. Then he traveled to the same area where Celine had disappeared, walking the trails himself, studying the terrain, trying to understand what might have happened. And during those searches, something unexpected happened. Volunteers began finding items that should have been discovered years earlier. The first major breakthrough was a phone believed to belong to Celine, found in an area that had already been searched, which immediately raised a troubling question. How had such an important piece of evidence remained hidden for so long? And the phone wasn't the only thing volunteers would find. As the searches continued, more items began to appear, items that seemed to belong to Celine, each discovery bringing investigators one step closer to understanding what had happened in the forest. Among the items recovered was a makeshift rain poncho, apparently created from a black garbage bag. Investigators also found a water bottle, one that appeared consistent with the supplies Celine had been carrying during her hike. For the first time in years, the case was producing physical evidence, real clues. Not theories, not speculation, evidence. Then came the breakthrough that changed the entire case. In 2025, human remains were discovered in the same general area where volunteers had been searching. The discovery immediately triggered a forensic investigation. Authorities worked to identify the remains. And for Celine's family, it was the phone call they had been waiting years to receive. Not because it brought good news, but because it finally brought an answer. Authorities confirmed the remains belonged to Celine Cremer, More than 2 years after she disappeared, her family finally knew where she was, but one important question still remained. How had she died? And perhaps even more importantly, why had it taken so long to find her? Investigators found no evidence suggesting foul play, no signs of an attack, no indication that another person had been involved. Instead, authorities believe Celine most likely became lost or disoriented while hiking through the remote terrain. A tragic outcome, but one that can happen surprisingly quickly in dense wilderness, especially in an unfamiliar environment. Yet even after the case was officially resolved, some questions continued to linger. How had search teams missed evidence located so close to the original search area? Could Celine have survived for longer than investigators first believed? And if volunteers hadn't returned to the forest years later, would those answers ever have been found at all? For more than 2 years, Celine Cremer's family lived without answers, without certainty, without closure. What finally changed the case wasn't a new witness or a hidden confession. It was persistence, the determination of people who refused to stop searching. And while the mystery of Celine's disappearance may now be over, her story remains a powerful reminder of how quickly a simple hike can turn into something no one ever expected, and how sometimes the answers are found in the very place everyone thought had already been searched. Celine Cremer's story is not just about a disappearance. It is about how fragile life can be, and how even the smallest decision can lead to the biggest unknowns. Rest in peace, Celine.